Hello, I'm Reverend Ruth Van Lillian. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. We recognize all the earth as sacred ground, and we welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad you're here. We invite you to check out our website and our Facebook page to learn more about us. We hope to touch hearts, teach minds, challenge spirits, and comfort souls. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service today.
My life goes on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn, that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What loud the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for one another, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together.
Hello, it's time for a story. This story is all about being brave. There are a lot of different ways and a lot of different circumstances in which you need to be brave, or everybody does, not just us, huh? So what do you think of first when you think about being brave? Maybe firefighters rushing into a burning building to rescue people? That's brave. Or climbing up a tall ladder to rescue a cat out of a tree? That could be brave. But maybe it's something like learning to ride a bike or to float on your back. That can be scary. You have to be brave. In this book called Brave, we've got a superhero here. He's made himself a cool costume, got wings on his pan hat and wings on the B on his shirt for brave. When the illustrator drew the pictures for this book, she kept having to think, well, what would that kind of being brave look like? There are a lot of different options. So as I read it, I'm going to read the words first and let you picture all the ways the illustrator might have chosen to draw her pictures. We're going to start off. Here's our kid. A brave kid seeks adventure. How would you illustrate that? What popped in your brain? Adventure. A lot of ways to have adventures. Here's what our illustrator did. Whoa, she's got our kids looking in books and on the globe and on maps. It looks like they're planning a trip for their adventure. Sometimes adventures are just things we read about. Sometimes adventures happen in our own yard. A brave kid has super strength. I think I'm picturing a guy with barbells. Let's see what our illustrator chose. Whoa, look at that super strength. They're playing chess. And this girl is playing a much older man. She's being brave, and everyone is watching and admiring her courage and giving it a try. A brave kid has a courageous heart. Being brave to do something kind. Have any pictures in your head? Oh, his little brother is scared in the dark, and he's looking under the bed to make sure there are no monsters. You do have to be pretty brave in the dark. A brave kid leads the team. So many kinds of teams. Maybe it's a baseball team. Maybe it's a marching band. Here's our brave leader. She's leading her friend and a bunch of ducks on a hike. It's a good team. A brave kid never gives up. You ever been at school and your teacher said your handwriting was lousy and you had to practice and practice it and never give up? Or you were having trouble getting your science experiment to work? Or so many things you have to try and try again, but you don't give up. This kid, his legs don't work so well. He's got a special kind of wheelchair for his race, but he's not giving up. My hero, you can do it. He's not giving up. A brave kid fights the toughest battles. Here it is. Maybe it's an illness. That can be a battle too. You can't give up. You have to work on getting well, following the doctor's instructions. And it's nice to have friends to help you through it. A brave kid speaks for truth. Sometimes we do things wrong and we don't want to admit it. Look what happened. This lady's garden is a disaster. And the girl says, I'm sorry. They were trying to help maybe, but or maybe they were just playing a game and not paying attention to what they were doing and knocked the flower pot off. And then you just need to apologize. I'm sorry. That takes some courage, some being brave. A brave kid stands for justice. You know what justice is, right? It's being fair, doing things the best way we can. In the cafeteria, oh, that girl's looking pretty mean. I'm afraid she was picking on somebody. Picking on maybe this kid who has to walk with a cane and a brace on his leg. And somebody brave is going to come up and tell her to stop. Don't pick on my friend. Whether she knows that kid or not, this can still be your friend, right? A brave kid gets back up. We all fall, we all mess up, but we get back up again and we try again with a little encouragement. That helps. A brave kid, too many pages. A brave kid stays calm when others are afraid. You know, being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. You probably are scared, but you do the right thing anyway. That's what makes you brave. Here they are. They've got a tent in the living room and it's dark. And he's staying calm, even though everyone else is scared, or she is. Brave kids can save the world. Whew, that gives me a lot of pictures in my head. There's so many ways to help the world. Here's what our illustrator chose. Cleaning up. It can be kind of gross and yucky, picking up all that trash. You might need to be a little bit brave to help and not give up and keep working. But brave kids, they can do it. Just by being brave. Maybe you had to be brave that way sometime. The teacher called on you and you had to stand in front of the class and read something or present something, or you were in a recital. Just being in front of people and doing what you know how to do can be scary too. But be brave. You can help the world. Thanks for listening. Bye.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are financially supported by the voluntary generosity of members and friends. We all contribute to sustain the work of our beloved community. There are many ways to contribute. Of course, your presence is the most valued. Some of us are able to contribute time and talents, and most are also able to contribute financially. It's easy to do. During this time of virtual services, you can make your donation right on our website, UUFEC.com. Scroll down and click the new yellow donate button under the photo. It will take you to a donation page with a drop-down box. Choose whether you're making a general donation to the fellowship, donating to Share the Plate, or paying your pledge. Share the Plate funds are split between our fellowship and a local charity. For all of October, Share the Plate funds will be split with Sharing and Caring of Niceville, which helps meet the emergency needs of families. Of course, both members and friends, old and new, may also choose to send a check to UUFEC at the address on the slide. Please help us sustain our fellowship during this time of separation and need. In the words of Christen Collins, we give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with a faith that together we have enough. Thank you for your generosity.
I'm Charlene Farley. a member of this Unitarian Universalist Fellowship on the Emerald Coast, and your service leader this morning. Once a month, we give our minister, the Reverend Ruth Van Lillian, a Sunday off from the pulpit to attend to other duties associated with her ministry. It's my pleasure, therefore, to introduce to you our guest speaker this morning, Dr. Hank Christen. Hank and his wife, Lynne, joined our fellowship in 2010. Prior to his retirement, Hank was a Battalion Chief for the Atlanta Fire Department and Director of Emergency Services for Okaloosa County, Florida. He also served as Team Commander for the Gulf Coast Disaster Medical Assistance Team and responded to 12 national-level disasters, including the 2001 World Trade Center attack. This morning, Hank will share with us several of his experiences, some poignant and some humorous, that he experienced during his long career as a firefighter. As you might imagine, fighting fires and witnessing death and dying up close can shape one's world-view perspectives and quest for truth, especially for a Unitarian Universalist. Thus, he entitled his message this morning, "My Firefighter's View of Life in the Trenches and How It Affected My Life Perspectives." We hope that you will join us immediately after the service on our Zoom and coffee hour and share your response to what you've heard this morning. And now, Dr. Christen.
Good morning. First of all, it's great to be here with you on another great Unitarian Universalist Sunday. And Shar, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to share some stories about my experience in the fire service and in emergency medical services, and then try to tie that into some Unitarian Universalist thought. My story begins on one of the worst nights of my career. Back in the day, I had been on about 3 months. I was most definitely a very green rookie, and we responded to an alarm at 104 Lucky Street. Believe it or not, Lucky. It was anything but lucky. My rookie wisdom came through because I saw some light smoke showing, and I said to my partner as we're getting off the rig that, hey, this doesn't look too bad. Little did I know. We took a hose line to make it what we call an interior attack, and I can tell you firefighters hate basement fires. You're literally going into an oven, and this was the case here. In fact, we got down to the bottom, opened the basement door, and we were met with a blast furnace. The two guys in front of me ran out. And I've been told from day one, and every rookie's told this, that if you ever run from a hose line, you might as well run back to the firehouse, unpack your stuff, because your career's over. Well, we settled down for a long night. Fortunately, everything was okay, and I walked around the front to get some more equipment at the front of the building, and the third alarm companies were coming in, and one of the guys, Howard Beck, made a comment to me, "Hey, don't worry, we're here now. The real firefighters will take care of it." He would be dead 2 minutes later. The incident resulted in the death of 4 firefighters, 23 firefighters put in the hospital. And I want to say their names: Captain Lewis Grady, firefighter Verlin Kreider, firefighter Charles Fernander, and firefighter Howard Beck. And Howard Beck continues to be part of this story. Just a week before he was killed, he had stated to us how happy he was that his wife was pregnant. It was their first child. And of course, he never lived to see his first child. I kept contact with Howard's wife throughout the years, and 30 years later, I was living down here at the time. She called me and said, "My son Eric wants to talk to you. He wants to talk to everybody that knew his father." And I dreaded that phone call, but I knew it was something that had to be done. And the young man called me. He was now 30-something years old, and he just said, "I'm Eric Beck. Please tell me about my father." It was an example of how in this business, and the military is another example, how you live through good times and bad times, and it sticks with you. Now, it's time to go to maybe a couple of more positive stories. I call them little war stories, and hopefully it'll get you just a little idea of the different things that you see on the street. It's not all tragic. There's some funny things, and there's some good outcomes. I remember one call, I was on a medic on a rescue unit, and we responded to a person down on the sidewalk, possibly unconscious, not unusual late at night in Atlanta. And we got on the scene, and the patient did not respond to stimulus, seemed to indicate that she was unconscious. So I got on the radio, called the hospital ER, and said, "We have a female patient unconscious, about 55 years old." This woman popped straight up and she said, "I'm only 35. Do I look that bad?" And it was a good outcome, but it was indicative of just some of the surprises that you get. I had another one. It came in as a suicide, and the run was to the MARTA station downtown. Late at night, we get down there and we find a guy up against the wall, sitting down. There's a gun at his feet, and he looks normal. He's shaking, but he's able to talk. So the obvious question is, what happened? And he had put the gun to his head, pulled the trigger, nothing happened. Put the gun to his head again, pulled the trigger, nothing happened. Third time, he pointed it at the wall to test it, and it went off. And I heard the comment, "Well, God stepped in, God saved him." I think a better answer was just the fact that a cheap Saturday night special with old ammunition that hadn't been cleaned or maintained, they were notoriously known for misfiring. So I think that's a better explanation. I had another call that seemed like it was going to be bad, but turned out well. Pedestrian hit by a bus. Get on the scene, a woman is laying by the front of a bus. Doesn't seem to be evidence of severe trauma, major back injuries, according to her. So I'm down on my knees at her neck, trying to put a cervical collar on her to support her neck, which is a common procedure. And suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I look over and I see a black motorcycle boot that could only come from a motorcycle cop. He hooks his toe under her head, flips her up with his boot, and he says, "Myrtle, if you get hit by a bus one more time in my zone, I'm going to put you under the jail." Well, she's jumping up, tearing the collar off and saying, okay, I won't get hit by any more buses. So kind of an interesting outcome. There was two stories that I like to compare. One with a very bad outcome that I still think about, and one that kind of made up for it. The bad outcome, it was a fire in the projects, zero visibility. I was on a ladder company, so my job was to do a search, and it's not like in the movies. A fire with heavy smoke, it's banked down to the floor level, and the visibility is zero. You can put your flashlight up to your mask and not see it. So you're feeling, and what we could call an interior search, you're literally crawling around the room, feeling with your hands as you go around the walls. You don't want to get off the wall because you can get lost very easy. The other hand, you're searching for a patient that might be on the floor or under something. Well, the long and short of it, I found a dresser, felt past that, and next minute, my hand hit the bed. Didn't find anybody. Came out. 5 minutes later, another crew member says, "Hey, we have a body in here." I couldn't believe it. I went back in, and between the dresser and the bed was a narrow space about a foot wide. And it was a very small stature man in a fetal position in that space. He was maybe 5'4", 5'2", and 110 pounds. And he was dead. And his eyes were open, and he was looking right at me. It was my job to get him, and I missed him. And to this day, I wonder, was he dead already when I missed him, or could he been alive and I could have gotten him out? So it's a high-stakes business, and I'll never know the answer to that. Now, there was another event very similar that worked out a lot better. It was an apartment house fire. The visibility was a little better, middle of the night. I'm on my knees in the room, and I can barely see the bed through the smoke, and there is a lady asleep with 2 little kids, one on each side. And I approached her and shook her awake. And I've never seen this before. Her eyes popped open, and she tried to scream, and nothing came out. It was, you can picture this big giant breathing like Darth Vader through a mask. I told her, I'll take 1 kid in each arm, and we're getting out of here. You hold on to the back of my coat from behind, and if you let go, I can't come back for you. Well, that isn't true. That motivated her, but I would have gone back for her. We get her outside, and I hand the 2 kids off, and I reach around to say, okay, it's all right. Well, she had a grip on my coat that it took me and another firefighter to get her hand loose. So she did what we told her, and that worked out. So it was just a whole career, a mix of good things, bad things, funny things, tragic things, good outcomes, and bad outcomes. Now, I want to fast forward to several decades, actually. I was down here, retired from my Director of Public Safety position, and it's September 12th, 2001. And my cell phone rings. I'm in Home Depot to pick something up, and I've just been informed that our medical disaster team has been activated, and we're going to respond to the World Trade Center attack. And I was still very active with the team, 35 of us deployed on September 13th. And I remember flying down the East River and looking down on the city, and in lower Manhattan, there was just a big cavern. And the thing that sticks in my mind the most about the World Trade Center was the fact that there was nothing in the pile, as we called it, except steel and dust. I've been to a lot of collapses in my career, and I can't remember a building where we didn't see any furniture, we didn't see any paper, carpeting, computers, just steel and dust. And the streets right around, several blocks around the area, were covered in paper. The buildings just rained paper, and again, all the dust. Our goal was we set up 4 different treatment areas, and we kept hoping there would be voids. We kept hoping that there would be firefighters and civilians alive. There were almost 3,000 people in that dust, 343 firefighters, and there was no recovery. Watching the Champlain Towers collapse recently in Miami brought me back to that, where hopefully there was somebody to save, and there wasn't. We treated people, we did our job, but the outcome was not what we had hoped for. And there's a story here that a fiction writer can't make this up. The first New York Fire Department fatality was Jesuit priest Father Michael Judge, who was the head chaplain of the New York City Fire Department. He was administering last rites in front of the North Tower, and a body from the upper floors fell on him, and he was killed instantly. I heard comments that, maybe this was God's way of sending a message, that the death of Michael Judge, he was called home. The death of Michael Judge had some kind of meaning. I prefer to look at it a different way, because I can't picture myself embracing a God that says, I'll fling somebody out of the 92nd floor of the World Trade Center, and they'll hit Michael Judge and kill him, and that'll be a message. I just had trouble picturing that way. I think a comment that applies here, I'm a fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist, and I follow his philosophy quite closely. And he often said, the universe is not hostile, but it is indifferent. In fact, another quote that he has that I find rather interesting is that the universe is under no obligation to make itself understood. So let's pull this together a little bit into some Unitarian Universalist thought, if there is such a thing. It reminds me of my favorite Unitarian joke. St. Peter is at the pearly gates, and people are coming in from their death. They're checking in to the pearly gates, and the loudspeaker keeps saying, Unitarians form a line to the left. Now, obviously, you're not going to ask Unitarians to line up on the right. That's not going to happen. Well, pretty soon, St. Peter walks up to the Unitarians and says, all right, you guys are here, but you're on probation. And any one of you that starts talking about how many books you've read, you're going back to the other place. So how else could we look at it? How do we see all of this? I frankly like the term, and I stumbled on this recently, agnostic. I-G-N-O-S-T-I-C, not A-G. And it's simply defined as, you ask an agnostic, do you believe in God? And the answer you're going to get is, well, what God are you talking about? Now, I will advise you, don't do this on some of your close fundamentalist friends, because you're liable to cause them to have a stroke. Maybe there's some thoughts from Buddha that apply to here. In that, one of the things that causes suffering and blocks enlightenment is clinging to things when the universe is really impermanent. That's some interesting thought. Now, at this point, if you're thinking, where is this guy going with this? It means I'm doing my job. What you've heard from me is not the truth in all caps. I'm not that good. What you got was some of Hank's biased and irrational truth. So my point is, what's your truth? And I think you can get it by questioning and then re-questioning. Dig and then re-dig. And what's going to happen, it's certainly been my great journey, is that a year from now, maybe your truth goes from today and goes to this much. And maybe 5 years from now, your truth goes to this much. I think that is the Unitarian Universalist way. Thank you.
We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Be strong, be well, be true, be loving.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Siblings and kindred, remember that you are stronger than you may realize, and that you have many gifts to share, and you are deserving of love and care. Go from this place out into the world in hope and joy, prepared for whatever comes next. Go in peace.